Yes, this one. I think everything works with microphone. Okay. Dear colleagues, szanowni państwo, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, mesdames et messieurs, my name is Laurent Tatarenko, and I'm the director of the Center for French Culture and Francophone Studies at the University of Warsaw. And of course, I am both delighted to be here today with you and honored by the presence of our guests gathered in what is known as the Weimar Triangle format between Poland, Germany, and France. That's why I wanted also to start by using our three respective languages, because it's also our shared specificities that make these tripartite meetings so rich, as I think. The Weimar Triangle, of course, refers to a framework designed to exchange perspectives and expertise between our three countries. But I believe that even more than that, it is a testimony to a desire to study together the developments on the contemporary world and the processes underway that concerns all of us. The subject of fake news, which we will be discussing today, seems particularly well suited to this approach, not only because it is an important part of the dramatic events that have taken place around the world in recent years, and which seem, unfortunately, to be repeating themselves with increasingly shorter cycle, but also because the virtual digital tools we now have at our disposal, and which are being perfected day by day, are calling into question the traditional borders and jurisdictions of states. However, before moving on to this complex and fascinating topic, I would like to hand over to His Magnificence Rector Aloisi Novak, who is the real host of this meeting today, and whom I would like to thank very warmly for welcoming us here today and saying a few words to open our discussion. Please, Mr. Rector.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is a sunny day. However, the situation in the world is not such sunny. So I am extremely grateful that we have a chance to meet today at Warsaw University and have discussion what is going on, generally speaking, as you introduced. But first of all, I wanted to welcome new ambassador, French ambassador to Poland. Sir, you are very welcome. And I wanted to underline that we have had, and I'm absolutely sure that we will be having very good cooperation between University of Warsaw and Embassy and Institute and Center of French Studies and French Culture. I'm also very pleased that we have a German representative, Professor. And I wanted to underline that both of your countries helped us very much, in particular during the so-called martial law. In both countries, universities, both French and German, were always open for Polish students, for Polish professors. We could study, we could work, we could do research, we could exchange ideas, etc., etc. Now, the situation is natural, completely different. I mean, Poland became part of European Union. So our doors for your students, for your professors, for everyone who is going to come to Poland, to Warsaw University, are opened and will be opened. University of Warsaw is, I think, like other universities, also in your countries, are very open institution. So this means that you can present, explain in whatever way you wish the situation, the problems of the challenges of the present economic situation, political situation, social situation, etc., etc. I think that in particular, cooperation between three countries, as you said, between building the triangle, Germany, France, and Poland, is extremely important just now, taking into account what is going on in Ukraine, not far away from here, the attacks, Russian attacks on Ukraine, but also the tragic situation we have been observing for the last few days in Israel. For sure, it will be having a lot of influences on what is going on in this part of the world, in Europe, in the world, and in other places. So I will say that discussions concerning democracy, concerning peaceful development, concerning good treatment of the people, tolerance, etc., is always important. And taking into account the different history between us, I think that it's also absolutely a good moment to show by the discussions, but not only, but what everything we have been doing, that it is possible to have, number one, extremely good neighborhood, good cooperation, good exchange of ideas, good businesses, and in particular, good relationships between the people, students in particular, professors as well, but not only between the nations. So for that reason, I am very pleased also that our center, or French Center, Center for French Studies, Language, etc., is organizing this kind of meeting at Warsaw University. And I am absolutely sure, and thank you, Director, for that. And I am absolutely sure that we will have a nice discussion. We will be trying to explain or to present different viewpoints. And this is a special event for us, for the university, and I hope it will be a special event also for you. However, such kind of events happen from time to time at Warsaw University, but the time is also special. And we are also grateful that the center exists. And we have center at Sorbonne as well, maybe not doing such well like it used to do, but we will do the best in the near future to improve also this situation. It is also probably need to be added that together with universities coming from your countries, we have been building one European university. I mean, University of Warsaw, along with Heidelberg University, Sorbonne, Copenhagen University, Milan University, Ghent University, and Charles University from Prague. We have been cooperating very strongly for the last 5-6 years, exchanging students, building common administration. Just now we are approaching to do common research. In the result, we are going to build European university. I mean, the name, the umbrella will be European, and the pillars will be national university. The reason is very simply stronger cooperation, but also competition against American universities and Asian, Far East, in particular Chinese universities. We need a strong common institution. So I am absolutely also sure that this center, our center, and students attending classes at Warsaw University and the universities I mentioned about will be also part of this program. Everything is being built both for European Union taxpayers' money, but also for the national taxpayers' money, because the money we are getting from European Union is not big enough, so we have to support the universities from the mentioned countries have been supporting also this idea. So saying that, I wanted to show only that there is a broader cooperation. We have been doing also things in real, discussing, analyzing, expressing our ideas, but also doing something in real. So welcome, thank you for coming. We are more than happy, and you are more than welcome at Warsaw University, and please always remember that the doors of the University of Warsaw are always open for you, for your colleagues, for your students, and I absolutely believe that the cooperation will be going on. We will strengthen the cooperation, and the results will be, number one, published, but we will be also implementing them in the real world. So thank you for coming. Have a nice day at Warsaw University and in Warsaw, and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rector, for your warm words. And I'm honored now to invite Monsieur Etienne de Ponsins, Ambassador of France to Poland, to give his vision on this joint event. Please, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, all of you, Mr. Rector and Mr. Chargé d'Affaires, ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you, Mr. Rector, for the warm words of welcome. And as it is the first time I'm in the Warsaw University, I would like to introduce myself. So I'm the new French ambassador, freshly arrived from Kiev, from Ukraine, where I spent 4 years as a French ambassador to Ukraine. And I went through the very painful situation of the war of aggression against Ukraine during 540 days. I have witnessed incredible courage and resistance of the Ukrainian people, and as there are some Ukrainian participating to this seminar, to this event, I want really to pay tribute to the courage of the Ukrainian nation facing this awful Russian aggression. Being here today, I am delighted for 3 reasons. The first one is because it's the first time that I have the opportunity to visit your prestigious university, Mr. Rector, and I'm very delighted to start my mandate visiting your university, and I'm pretty sure that will be not the only, the first time, and that I will come following your invitation regularly for addressing students or visiting you. I'm also very happy, and I want to say a special word to you, Mr. Director Tatarenko. I will come maybe in the coming week to visit you more intensively and see how your institute is doing. But I've already heard a lot of good things about your work, and I want to encourage you to continue. And lastly, but I want also to express my satisfaction to do this seminar together with our German friends. For us, as you know, Germany is a key partner. We are together at the European Union since the very beginning. We have done so much during the previous decades that our friendship is something remarkable. And doing this, now the light is coming. I don't know whether it's because I talk about Germany, but it's good. No, I just want to underline that the format of this seminar, meaning the Weimar Triangle, is very important for France. It's a key element of our diplomacy, because it's put together within the European Union, I do think 3 key partners, France, Poland, and Germany. So as much as possible, we will favor here, as a French embassy in Poland, we are going to favor this format. So I'm addressing colleagues who are present here. If there are other ideas or other proposal to work in that format, I will always receive those suggestions with great pleasure, and you will get my full support. And going into the substance of your conference, I would like to underline that it is with a deep sense of responsibility and urgency that I stand before you today to inaugurate this seminar dedicated to the fight against fake news and disinformation. This topic is particularly relevant in the context of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This joint initiative between France, Germany, and Poland, the countries that make up the Weimar Triangle and which has been joined by Ukrainian experts, bears witness to our commitment to confronting one of the most destabilizing threats to regional balances and democracy. We meet today as committed actors in the preservation of the integrity of information. The phenomenon of information manipulation transcends national borders and requires a collective and coordinated response. Even more worryingly, massive online disinformation contributes to undermining confidence in democratic institutions and processes. Access to independent, reliable, and high-quality information is an essential condition for the functioning of democracies, the rule of law and the international system, and for the fight against the proliferation of information manipulation. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is a tragic example of how disinformation can be used to legitimize, to put it rightly, to try to legitimize unjustifiable and manipulate public opinion. Ukraine is facing a hybrid war in which propaganda and distortion of information are used as weapons. Information manipulation spreads confusion, distorts reality, and blurs the boundaries between truth and fiction. In this context, it has become imperative to fight disinformation with unwavering determination. At the European level, several mechanisms have been set up by the Commission to combat fake news and disinformation, such as the Code of Practice and the European Disinformation Observatory and the European Fact-Checking Network. France has also launched in 2019 with Reporters Sans Frontières the Partnership for Information and Democracy. Now, with 51 member states, it responds to the need to promote an environment conducive to reliable information for citizens, to enable them to form an informed opinion. It aims as well to encourage the companies that structure the global information and communication space to respect the principle of transparency, responsibility, and neutrality, and to respect human rights. Today, we are bringing together experts, researchers, journalists, and truth advocates from Ukraine, Poland, Germany, and France. All will share their knowledge and experience in the fight against disinformation. We have the opportunity to learn from each other, to develop effective strategies to face this major challenge and to demonstrate our commitment to the fight for truth, in interaction with the audience in working groups following the speaker's presentation, and discussion will enrich the debate. As experts, researchers, journalists, and policymakers, it is our duty to combat misinformation by using tools such as fact-checking, promoting media literacy, and enhancing transparency in the information field. We must also work closely with the media, governments, academic institutions, and civil society to develop effective counter-narrative strategies. As you know, information manipulation is a complex and evolving challenge. It cannot be conquered in a single day or by a single actor. However, by joining forces and sharing knowledge, we can forge more powerful tools to counter the threat. I would like to thank all the participants, especially our Ukrainian colleagues that I mentioned before, for their commitment to this vital cause. Our meeting today is a demonstration of our shared determination to protect truth, democracy, and peace. May this seminar be fruitful, and may our collaboration continue to bear lasting fruit in the fight against disinformation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all the best for your work and for your day of reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your programmatic remarks and for your presentation of the topic. And I'm now very honored to invite to intervene Mr. Robert Rode, Chargé d'Affaires ad interim of the German Embassy in Poland, to give us his vision of this topic. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Your Magnificence, Panie Professorze, Excellency, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Monsieur le Directeur, ladies and gentlemen, Mesdames et Messieurs, Szanowni Państwo, but above all, dear students, I'm particularly happy to represent the German side of the Weimar Triangle today. And let me echo the previous speakers in thanking, first of all, the co-organizers of today's event, the Embassy of France in Poland, and the Centre de Civilisation Française et d'Études Francophones en Pologne, and our host, the Universität Warszawski, for bringing us together today. And a particularly warm welcome also to our Ukrainian friends, which are participating online directly from Kiev. If you take a closer look on today's program, and the illustrious group of participants, it promises very challenging discussions. As the ambassador already mentioned, in recent years, the phenomenon of disinformation has become increasingly strong. With the rise of social media and the development of artificial intelligence spreading, disinformation has become a lot easier. Artificial intelligence allows the production of fake news at a large scale. In consequence, misperception is becoming more real and almost indistinguishable from truth. And especially in uncertain times, people are often looking for simple truth or orientation. And populists have an easy time with simple, often manipulated truths and so-called alternative facts. Whether in the COVID pandemic, climate change, or Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, facts are being distorted and untruths spread around the world. Almost 10 years ago, I had been working as a spokesperson of the German embassy in Moscow. And the case Lisa, some of you might remember, fell in the middle of the criticism of Russia's actions at that time in Donbass. As a reminder, a young Russian-German girl had disappeared in Berlin, and Moscow immediately claimed that the girl had been kidnapped and mistreated by migrants. As evidence, they cited photos that came from a completely different context. And even when it became clear that the girl had only run away from home, sought shelter with her boyfriend, the Russian side stuck to its own narrative. And every time I got into a cab in Moscow and identified myself as German, I heard the same question. What's going on in Germany? Is it still safe to walk on the streets? So you see, disinformation has become a global threat. It undermines trust in public institutions, it harms open discourse, it polarizes our society, it threatens our democracies. Disinformation makes it much harder to find the global challenges, to tackle the global challenges that we need to address. It aims to sow discord also on a global scale. Disinformation aims to undermine global credibility. This is the reason why today's seminar is so important, because disinformation has an impact on each of us. And it is a huge challenge for journalists, because disinformation aims to undermine the trust in media. How will you as a journalist know to trust sources when deepfakes become so real? So you see much more questions than answers, and I'm looking forward to your insights, wishing us all very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much. So So I'd like to thank the Chargé d'Affaires for his very clear and, let's say, inspiring presentation, which will guide our discussion, I'm sure, for it. And I also take this opportunity, of course, to thank all the three speakers for sharing their expectations with us on behalf of the three institutions that are indeed the three pillars of this meeting. So we are now moving to the practical part, let's say, of our program with two Ukrainian colleagues who joined us online. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Olena Tsibuch from the Ukrainian Embassy in Poland for her help in organizing these invitations, of course. So we will begin our keynote session with that of Mrs. Anaït Koperia, who is online with us, as I already told, and who is the head of the Department for Countering Information Threats to National Security at the Center for Countering Disinformation in Kyiv. Her team counteracts current and projected threats to Ukrainians' national security, interests in the information, of course, sphere, identifying and counteracting disinformation, but also preventing attempts to manipulate public opinion. Mr. Chargé d'Affaires mentioned it, the question of manipulation, of course, which is very important talking about fake news. So, of course, as recent events in the Middle East, already mentioned, have shown us the manipulation of information is not unique to Ukraine, but in the context of a long and massive war, which has become a kind of laboratory, unfortunately, for new military practices, but also new forms of struggle can also be observed, particularly in the field of information circulation. This is why we considered that the views of our Ukrainian colleagues could be particularly relevant to our subject. So please, I give you one, Anaït, and please for 10 or 15 minutes of presentation. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Dzień dobry. It is a pleasure to be here and to take part in this beautiful discussion. And I need to say from our perspective, from government perspective, that yes, this was a challenge not from 2022. I think whole independence of our country is like a challenging part in our nowadays. So if I'm going to say about Center for Countering Disinformation and the role of it and how it was created, I think it is a practical case how to beat these disinformation campaigns, because when President Zelensky announced about creation of Center for Countering Disinformation, he mentioned that in future he wants to see as us as an international hub, as an alliance, because we have NATO as a military alliance, but also we need some alliance to counter disinformation within our countries, because it gets more and more sophisticated, and we cannot close our eyes on it. So that's why. So our center is pretty young. We were created just in 2021, and it took maybe half a year, like budgeting processes, etc., just to recruit people. And it was in November 2021. And since we just created our system of analytical work, because it's a unique thing that we are an analyst center for our state organizations, state institutions, because we are accepting all and taking all monitorings that they have and put into one big picture. And also we are monitoring information threats too. That's why when we just started this process, full-scale war started, and we understood that we also should work with our people to be more open and transparent, because at that time we were in basements, etc., and we didn't understand what is actually happening, where is the truth. The Russians started, they used a lot of money to the weapons and other things, but they also used pretty much sources to overtake our information area. That's why we started to constantly communicate with our people, to verify information with our state organizations, state institutions, just to say for people that please don't believe on this or that. Somehow it was like government fact-checking agency. But after that, we understood that we need to show the big researchers how disinformation campaigns are working in Russia and within our country, because we understand that they are working not in our country, of course, but abroad. They use every opportunity to discredit Ukraine, to destabilize inside our country too. That's why we made a lot of researches and we publish in it constantly. For example, as nowadays, unfortunately, that is happening in Israel, Russians using this situation too, just to say that Ukrainian has illicit market of weapons and they send in weapons there and other nonsense that they making. But still, this illicit market even of weapons started from 2014, this disinformation campaign. So it has a pretty huge history about it. Additionally, we are trying, I can say that coordination is the best part in every country because we are constantly working with international partners. For example, Radowe Centrum Bezpieczeństwa, they are really close partners of ours. We countered disinformation campaigns within together, I think, more than 5 campaigns. And then we are trying to find more our partners in France. In Germany, we're just trying to figure it out how we could maybe counter together some disinformation campaigns because we see the influence there, big influence of Russian disinformation campaigns against Ukraine and over the world, of course. So that's why we are trying to make this part that President Zelensky mentioned happen, just to make this alliance all together. So the third, I think, direction, beside analytical direction and public communication direction, we're working, of course, with our international partners. And the fourth part is educational. Honestly, we haven't even thought about it, that we will get such requests from our society that we need to show somehow how to work with people and what is disinformation. And we started from kids. You know, we made the cartoons, for example, with the Office of Integrity of National Agency of Prevention of Corruption. They have such office, and they say, please provide us information. We want to make cartoons for our children. What is disinformation? What is information bubble, for example? What is the bots? Because unfortunately, we don't have any explanation in our legislation. But still, we need to show our people, because we are using these words pretty much. But legally, unfortunately, even if we are talking about Center for Countering Disinformation, in fact, in law fact, we counter what? That's the problem. And I think we need to work on doctrine and legislation to be in one, in one circle, and to understand one terminology within all countries, not just in Ukraine and in our ministries, etc., but within every agency in the Europe, because we are trying to make this a Euro integration, but we also need to have one terminology. So regarding education, we started from kids, then we started from students, continued with students, because students had also a lot of questions about it. And now we are working with state institutions, with special services, and with even regional parts, our representatives from regions, because we need to be on the same page and understand that this is a threat to our national security. and we need to work on very hard. And that's why I think probably we will continue our work within to provide our expertise to other countries and to understand which common work we can do together. And we're really open for it. And thank you for these discussions. I think due to these discussions, we have opportunity to get this, understanding what we should do next. Not just explaining, etc., because countering disinformation is not just, I don't know, debunking fakes. Yes, countering disinformation is something more. It's like in proactive cases, etc. Like we need to work hard on this level and to understand that we need to be together, and we need to work on this information influence, malign information influence, together just to beat it and to win. That's Ukrainians do every day, and hopefully we will do also it together. And like the previous speech, I want to thank you. Dziękuję. Danke schön. Merci beaucoup. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Anaid. Дуже дякуємо for your presentation. And in attempt to keep our original schedule, I'm going to hand straight over to our second guest, Dr. Yevhen Fedchenko, who was one of the main founders of stopfake.org, a website linked to the School of Journalism of the National University Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, of which he is the current director. Yevhen has also worked for many years as a professional journalist and a media specialist, so I think he's indeed the right person to develop this dual perspective, straddling the academic approach and the practical eye of information creators. We could define so the journalist. So Yevhen, please, I take your place for your presentation for 15 minutes, please.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this discussion. And with Anaid, we are very happy to convert Weimar Triangle to Weimar Square and to share Ukrainian experience of fighting disinformation. So Stop Fake would mark almost 10 years of our activities very soon. Probably I might say unfortunately, because fighting disinformation is important on one hand, but it also takes a lot of efforts and from journalism, because as it was said, disinformation occupies the space which should be usually occupied by journalism. That's why it was one of the mission of us as School of Journalism to intervene and to start looking for the solution, how to fight back disinformation. So, as I said, we're around almost 10 years, and it was very, very important for us to start as soon as occupation of Crimea started back in 2014. Because since then we accumulated a lot of knowledge about the Russian disinformation ecosystem, including doctrine, how information war is incorporated into military doctrine of Russia, what is the Russian strategy. We also mapped all Russian main actors, platforms for dissemination of disinformation and narratives. So we know basically in advance what Russia is going to use against Ukraine or anywhere else. And as Anaid mentioned, we also monitor very closely what Russia is now doing within Middle East situation, and we see a lot of parallels, and we see the same playbook, which is used both by Russia and by Hamas to justify their terrorist actions. So this knowledge is really very important. Also, as a fact-checking organization, we are mainly use debunking as a tool of fight, but also we do a lot of pre-bunking, because if we know what tools Russia is operating, we can much easily predict what they are going to do. Also, from our point of view, it was very important to have an early start, early deployment of our organization well before the full-scale invasion. So when invasion started, we already were fully prepared and we knew everything what Russia is going to use against Ukraine, and we can use that knowledge against preemptively, which was very, very important. Also, from Ukraine perspective, it was very important to limit the presence of malign Russian influence in Ukraine well before the invasion. So it basically prevented Russia from being fully operational in Ukraine when the war started. And also, we always been looking at the problem of disinformation as a global challenge. So that's why we were not only fighting Ukraine, disinformation in Ukraine, but we also were internationalizing those efforts outside of Ukraine to raise awareness about the problem in other countries and to explain how disinformation basically is ruining the media system and is decreasing the resilience of people, including in the times of active conflicts and warfare. In terms of internationalization, we expanded our presence in other languages rather than just Ukrainian. And so now we're available also in Polish, for example, in German and in French. So I encourage everybody also to follow us on social media, where we have a full presence in all those and many other languages as well. Also, we spend a lot of time researching Russian disinformation presence outside of Ukraine. So the next week, I will be presenting the new research conducted by StopFake jointly with Carlos III University in Madrid. So it's basically about the presence of Russian disinformation in the European Union. And next week, I would present it in Paris at CELSA with our colleagues at School of Journalism at Sorbonne. So the preliminary findings are very obvious. So yes, Russia was always trying to operate outside of Ukraine and also influence the image of European Union and separate countries, country members of European Union for Ukrainian audience. So, for example, we looked into thousands of the stories we debunked, and we selected those stories which were specifically targeting issues related to EU and EU member countries. And generally, among the whole amount of the data we collected in those 10 years, we have found that almost 27% of all disinformation was about European Union. Poland was subject to disinformation items 14.8%. The second place is Germany with 14.6%. And the fourth place is France with 5.4% of disinformation pieces we debunked. They were related to your countries. So that gives us the idea that this is a global problem and you cannot tackle it only in one place. You really need very holistic approach to be effective. So that's why, for example, now StopFake is expanding our activities into global South countries. For example, we opened the hub in Madrid, from where we are dealing with disinformation in Latin American countries. And also we do a lot of bilateral relations with different educational and research institutions across European Union, including we work very actively with military academy in Warsaw, for example, among other things, and many other teaching and research institutions, including in the military, to share Ukrainian experience, which is quite unique and of very high demand now, I would say. And the main idea which we see now is that again, you cannot fight kinetic warfare separately from fighting the information warfare. And also what we noticed, the less achievements Russia has on the front line, the more efforts they invest into non-kinetic instruments, including information warfare, cyber attacks, intelligence leaks, and other non-kinetic instruments. So we definitely need to follow them very closely and to prevent Russia from expanding their presence outside of the EU. So due to sanctions which were introduced in 2022 against major Russian disinformation platforms in the EU, Russia started very actively to relocate their disinformation outlets outside of the EU, included into Latin American countries, where they now have a huge base, from where they actually are targeting back EU countries, including Spain, and also they expand their bases in Francophone Africa, in the Middle East, and those activities are very actively expanding. So we strongly encourage European Union to look outside of the EU, and to also encourage non-EU members to fight back disinformation as well, because, as I said, you cannot fight it just in Ukraine or just in the EU, because this system is still pretty intact, and we still need to invest a lot of efforts to dismantle this system and to make it non-operational. So I want to thank all the partners who invited Ukraine to this conversation and to share Ukrainian experience. And I also want to encourage you to look into what StopFake is doing as a non-governmental organization. But also I want to underline that we work very closely with governmental institutions in Ukraine which are fighting disinformation. And this state, non-state cooperation was one of the key important elements of building a very effective system of fighting disinformation. I also, all our findings are very actively used by different Ukrainian state institutions, including Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Prosecutor's Office and other institutions, because, as I said, we already accumulated a huge database, thousands and thousands of cases, which not only give you the idea of how big and effective Russian disinformation system is, but also you can use those findings as evidences of the war crimes perpetrated by Russia and Russian disinformation system as a part of the military machine, which is operating under the disguise of the Russian media system. Thank you very much again for having us, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Evgen, and thank you for a presentation which shows your different initiatives, and which is important also because I think you are perfectly shown that, of course, to fight fake news, we have to be connected to our screens, we have to use our machines, considering the amount of information, but we, first of all, have to be connected between us to make it a, let's say, common fight, and it's the only way to make it work, I think. So yes, maybe we'll just take a few questions very quickly because we have to proceed after to the second part of our morning meeting. But if you have some question from the public, please don't feel shy. Yes, Professor Steinerbach.
Maybe just as an icebreaker, so you offered to exchange information about disinformation campaigns on an international base, but is your experience that disinformation is similar with respect to the topic all over the place? So for example, in the COVID crisis, we had very different stories and narratives all over the world. So do you think this is a generalizable strategy, or do you think it's only viable in your special case with this Russian strategy of disinformation?
Who want to respond first? You're welcome. Yes, please, Evelyn.
Oh, okay. Sorry for taking the initiative. So, yeah, you are right. On one hand, disinformation is specifically targeting each country and each community, which make it very domesticated, localized, and that's why targeting those audiences in the far better way. But also what we see is the same approach in different places and the same tools which are used, so that yes, the topics might be different, but very often the playbook is the same, and it's not only for Russia, but also for other state actors like China and Iran and others, but also for non-state actors. I already mentioned Hamas, for example, and they are very actively using Russian playbook for that. So we see some universal things which can work across the platforms. And also platforms are very important, so because that's the main place for distribution of disinformation these days. So it's important to work with them. And for example, Stop Fake is working with Facebook to limit the presence of the Russian disinformation over there. But also very often we see how the same networks are used as soon as we are involved in networks analysis. For example, you mentioned COVID. So surprisingly or not, the same networks were used both for COVID disinformation or misinformation and for Ukraine war disinformation, for example. So that gives you the idea that those networks are not very organic and they were created well in advance, deployed in advance, and then they can be used for anything, very easily renamed, targeting different audiences. But the approach to organize the work and organize those networks is pretty much universal.
Thank you. Maybe Anna, you want to add something?
Yes, just a short comment. Totally agree with Evgeny. And by the way, we are now exchanging our information with our partners within every country, and we see the similarities in the instruments that you're using, Russians, for example, and maybe other countries. But I should mention that this is so common that that we need to sit all together and discuss it, how to be all together. It's alliance thing. It was not like that, some blah blah thing. No, it is the really important part that we should do all together. And this is the same thing that they are using even in Africa. Now, in 40 minutes, I will have the research about Africa and what instruments the Russians using there for malign influence, and they're pretty the same, like in every country, like in Europe, for example. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Anait. So, unfortunately, because of the shortage of time, we have to proceed to the second part. But before it, I would like to thank once again our two Ukrainian colleagues, and maybe we'll see you on the other occasions, considering this important topic. So, thank you very much. And now I'd like to invite to take seat our 6 speakers. So please, if you could come here, all of you with the microphone, because I think maybe Professor Steinerbach has it.
I've already hijacked the microphone.
Please, have a seat. Yes, maybe. Okay, you want that because I said yes.
I know I need to sit next to it.
It's not exactly in the order. Because yes, maybe we'll try to. This way, yes. I don't have any paper for me because I'm just a moderator. and well, like in one person maybe. Okay, so everybody is. Okay, so thank you for being here with us today. So I thank each one of you, for our 6 speakers, and we will move, in fact, to the second part, as I already told it, to our meeting, by giving the floor to the experts in a panel designed as an exchange of point of view between their different areas of specialization. So perhaps we could start, in fact, with Professor Steinebach, an academic teacher and researcher at the Technical University of Darmstadt, and a specialist in the field of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, notably as the principal investigator of the project Athene, if I read it well. And Professor, so given your experience in this field, could you tell us a little bit more about your main work, of course, but also give us some thoughts on the role of technology in the production and checking of information? Of course, it's a very general question, but maybe you could illustrate it with your more research topics.
Yes, and I prepared a general answer, so that it fits quite well. So we have been asked to do short presentations. I have some slides ready because it structures things much better.
Is this one?
Yes. Yes. It's the PowerPoint presentation, and so maybe we can just move it here, so I have the possibility.
Disconnecting everything.
Oh yeah, just with a quick and gentle push, everything will work fine. Okay. This technology that works like a charm.
Just,
okay. So yeah. So we go to the
yes, please.
Oh.
If you are not interested, so maybe just close
okay.
here and.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, yes.
And then we go back to the full screen mode. And
more
hope
special that I am, so.
Perfect. So thank you. And I quickly skip to the next slide. So I've been introduced, and what I wanted to do is just have a little bit of a structure on how technology addresses the field of disinformation. So disinformation, at least in the academic field, also knows neighboring concepts like misinformation or malinformation, which is a more extreme form of disinformation. But I don't want to go into detail here because this is very heavily discussed if you can, for example, distinguish misinformation and disinformation or disinformation and malinformation. Yeah? But just to give you the idea that you don't fall in the same rabbit hole and also to spread disinformation about malinformation or misinformation about disinformation, just keep in mind there are many terms that are used differently. And then, of course, there are different media types, the disinformation with text, with images, audio, video, all know different technologies to counter this. So it's, for example, much more easy to develop a concept for identifying image manipulation recognition than text manipulation recognition, because text and image are totally different with their, well, form of creation and noise and so on. So we have different types of disinformation and different media types. But the interesting thing then comes to the point where we want to start to counter disinformation. And this is what I have under the bracket of degree of familiarity. Because from a technical point of view, it's a huge difference. And we just touched this in the keynotes, for example. If you have the same disinformation, known identical narrative that maybe is just respread with a different word, with synonyms and so on, or you have a completely new topic. So something like, okay, you have the same methods or the same networks, but just a new topic. This is really heavy or really challenging from the perspective of automatic identification. So for me, the degrees of familiarity are this known identical narratives, then known modified narrative where you just exchange, for example, actors. Then you come to a known topic, but a new narrative. So in COVID, for example, we had a lot of different disinformation campaigns, all about COVID, but completely different stuff. And then you have new topics. So you have COVID, and then you switch to Ukraine, for example. Both heavy on disinformation, but different topics. And then you come to the different technologies that you can use. So you can use re-identification strategies for known narratives. And this is a very low challenge. This is almost trivial and usually just requires, well, frameworks to handle data. With known modified narratives, you come to the similarity detection. So you want to find out that something is similar, that's text about the same thing, a similar narrative. That's okay. But for new topic or also new narratives, you need classification. And here we come to machine learning concepts. And with classification, you raise your error rates. So machine learning is very good. It allows things that weren't possible before, but you still are in a range of 10 to 20% error rates, which means that when you're in a world with billions of messages, you are also in the range of billions of false positives when you deal with that. And this is a huge challenge. So you can't hope that technology solves everything. These are just a few examples. I won't go into detail here, just to show you that depending on what you deal with, you have a lot of different technologies. So for example, the first line, this image known identical narrative re-identification. It just listed all the technologies that can be used here. And then with text new topic, the other extreme is the classification strategies. You also have things like just finding out on what topic a message is, but also checkworthiness detection, where you just point a human observer on the position in a text that needs to be checked, because text is a lot of noise with very few facts. And this is just an example, and it's deliberately a funny example because I didn't want to go into the really heavy stuff here. And this is just an example of how you can deal with disinformation when you have a combined text and image that is a little bit known, like here a story that a corona vaccine is based on alien DNA, and you have some computer-generated expectation graphs that show you how a human will look like when it gets vaccinated by this stuff. And then what you can do here, and these are really narratives that have been spread around in a similar manner. So what you can do here is, of course, you can take the image and you can find out where the image comes from. So this inverse image search based on perceptual hashing, for example, that shows you that, okay, this image comes from an old 1980s movie, Aliens Among Us. So you have one identifier, okay, this is not a computer simulation of a DNA effect. And on the other hand, you can also go through the text and find out that a lot of substrings, a lot of parts of the text have also been used in a previous narrative on genetic manipulation. So this is how you technically really deal with simple cases, just having a database, matching stuff, doing inverse image search, and giving fact checkers hints if this has been aggregated from previous hoaxes or other content. And this is really just the most simple example imaginable. Thank you so much, and I'm happy for the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Steiner. But maybe before the discussion, I will also give the floor to Daniel Rząsa, a journalist working in Poland and the United Kingdom, initially specializing in economic issues and editor-in-chief of the page 300gospodarka.pl, which presents an analysis of economic news and in the broadest sense, let's say. So since 2022, he has also headed Google News Lab for Central and Eastern Europe, which aims to work with journalists in order to fight against fake news. So to complete a little bit the points already mentioned by Professor Steinebach, could you, Daniel, let's say, present us how this relationship between new technology and the quality and circulation of information is viewed from the point of journalists today, and also considering the massive computerization of their practices, in fact. So how do you see it from the point of the practitioner, let's say?
Hi, thank you very much for invitation. Such an important topic and esteemed guests. This is a very complex and difficult question. I don't know if we're going to solve that in a few minutes.
We are here to resolve.
Yeah, my background is not research at all. I used to be a journalist for the big part, 90% of my career. I've joined Google a year ago, where I've been leading Google News Lab, as you said, which is a small unit within Google that works with journalists, that work with fact checkers, researchers a little bit as well, to fight misinformation, to increase diversity and inclusion in journalism, and also to advance the level of digital transformation. And of course, the misinformation part nowadays, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, is the key component here. So we're trying to look holistically at what newsrooms need in order to not only survive in the online environment, but also to thrive, and actually fighting misinformation is one of those things. Just to give you a little bit of background, Google doesn't work with journalists and fact checkers out of some grand ideas. Of course, we do like to think that, but it's also it's a business, and it's also in our very own business interests. So the better the content, the bigger, the higher quality content there is online that is found through Google search, the more users go not only to Google search, but also to the websites afterwards. So again, this is not a charity or nothing like that. It's just a pure business for us, which actually makes me very happy that we can connect those two important things. So obviously, some of the developments that we're looking at right now here in Central Eastern Europe are, of course, developing misinformation narratives in Ukraine, and I was very pleased to see Evgen Fedchenko here. We are soon to start a partnership between us, and this is one of the things that Google News Lab does in order to have stop fake experts travel around Central and Eastern Europe and give lectures and workshops about their experience of first-hand debunking Kremlin propaganda and how it works. We are obviously looking at the development of AI and how it can be used to spread misinformation, but of course also how it can be used to fight misinformation and stop it. And AI is this buzzword that everyone now uses. Just want to say it's nothing new, really. It's been around for many, many years. Google search have used AI techniques for a long time. Now with the fact that generative AI has been made popular by several different tools, we are now looking at this big fad of looking into it. So I just want to underline, this is just a tool, like all the other tools. It can be used for good things and bad things. So, for instance, what we're trying to do is every image that is going to be created with Google's AI is going to be watermarked, and it's going to have a mark that it is created by AI, not a human being. We are thinking together with the entire ecosystem of the best way of going forward. It takes a lot of time, unfortunately, which is sometimes very frustrating, but I believe personally this is the best time to get it right. So again, we're looking forward to the whole discussion, looking forward to hearing all the presentations here, and thank you for the invitation once again.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I think your point is reassuring in some way, because you are telling us that checking information, or let's say truth, whatever it can mean, it's also a business value. So generally we heard that fake news is something it's spreading widely and it's used because it's also more valuable for business. But in fact, truth also can be an interesting product. So in this way, it's interesting for us to hear that. It's reassuring. let's say, point of view. So now, just for another aspect, let's return to more technical aspects, maybe with Dr. Eva Kijak, who will talk about image analysis. So Dr. Eva Kijak specializes in signal processing in telecommunications and works as associate professor at the University of Rennes 1. And so we heard here some thoughts on the role of new technology in the construction and dissemination of information, but from a practical, let's say, point of view of the scientist, what tool and methods do we have today to fight the visual fake news created by machines, in fact, how it works?
I have prepared small presentations.
Yeah, if you want to get it here, if you will, or you have it on your laptop.
Yeah.
It's a little bit.
Can offer you a USB stick. If you trust me, you can use it.
Let's try to maybe to put your laptop. It will be easier. So maybe.
I can take my laptop.
Yeah, I think it's just a HDMI connection. So. It will be easier, I think, to connect. No, it's no problem. I think it's perfect. So please.
So, thank you for the introduction. So I'm Eva Kijak, and I'm very happy to be here. As mentioned, I'm a researcher, and my scientific background is on computer vision and machine learning, and I have a strong interest in applying all this technique in fake news detection. So how you probably know, fake news detection is a really active area in research. There are many works because there are many types of manipulation, and we already mentioned it. And of course, we all know that the answer to fake news problem will not be only technical. And the goal of our work is more to find a way to automate the detection of fake news in order to be able to process the large amount of misinformation that circulate in the web. So, considering the short time, I will just be a little bit more technical than before and focus in images involved in fake news, and in particular images in social media. So I will not talk a lot about deepfakes, and there are many things to say about it, and I hope we will have the opportunity to discuss this later in the workshop. So if we focus on images and how they are involved in fake news, I will try to underline, for example, what are the techniques we can use and what are the limitations, and why we are not now yet able to propose a very good system. So images are involved in fake news with different cases. The first one, you know, the image can be modified on purpose and with object insertion or deletion. So there can be some local manipulation, but also global manipulation like color manipulation, cropping, resampling, and something like this. The other thing we can find is fully generated images that are presented as real. And the third case is images, we have mentioned this yet, images that are used out of context. So in this case, the image is not modified, but miscaptioned to support a false claim. I will not have time to discuss this, but this is a very interesting topic because it's a kind of fake news that is very effective, very simple to create, but not so easy to automatically detect. Okay. If we focus on modified images, it has been said already, image tampering or synthesis exists for a long time, and what changed today is intelligence artificial based methods that are used now, and while they previously were graphic based. But in the same time, the detection methods have evolved in the same direction, meaning that we strongly rely on intelligence artificial to detect manipulations, and that means we learn things from data. Again, if we focus on images on social media, you have two different cases. The first one is that the only thing you have and you can rely on is the image itself. And in the second paradigm, you can rely on external or contextual data. In the first case, what you can do is, the developed method relies on low-level feature. They can detect some subtle artifacts or inconsistencies in noise or traces of resampling, and so on, because each time you manipulate an image, you left some traces. And you have some example of different methods here on these images. These methods are very effective, but they are not robust to post-processing methods like rescaling, multiple recompression, and so on, because the traces are so fragile that they are erased in this case. And that means such methods usually doesn't work well on images that circulate on social media. In this case, in the second case, you can make the assumption that you can find many similar images on the web, and hopefully the original one. And this is usually what you do if you, when you try to spot if an image has been modified. You first go for a reverse search image engine to check if you already find this image. This is a reasonable assumption in the case of images that circulate on social media. This supposes that you have a great reference database that you are able to dynamically update. And once you have found this kind of similar images, as mentioned, the problem is just a problem of comparing two images, a pair of images. This is a really easy task for humans, because when you see those in this example, you immediately see if the identity of a person has been replaced, or if just an overlay has been added of an image, or if the crop of the image has erased some important information. You look directly at the semantic content of the image. Comparing a pair of images is also an easy task for a computer, but it relies more or less on low-level features to achieve the task, and it will raise a lot of alarms, indeed, in every time a modification is encountered. And in the case of images on social media, you can find a lot of edited images. For example, people add some text, people add some overlay, people crop it, people make a screenshot, and this makes some difficult case for image retrieval systems, and we will not discuss this here. But also in terms of comparisons, this raises too much false positive, because you will always find some differences, and then it's useless in practice. In fact, we are stuck here with the problem of characterizing a modification. So we can easily say that that there is a modification, but we cannot say easily if the modification is malicious or not, and this is a problem. And it not depends on the kind of modification, because you can say that if you add an object in an image, it's a malicious intent. But if you just change the color, it's not malicious, but it's not so obvious, because You can have, you know, misleading crop, for example, because you erase some information, some context of the image, which is important to the interpretation. You can have an overlay that is misleading because it hides an object. You can have color editing modifications that are misleading because they make the image more threatening, and so on. And so this is not so obvious. And just to finish, just to say a few words about my current research direction. We aim to develop a detection systems that operate more at the semantic level, and also that is able to get an explanation about the spotted differences. And technically, just to mention, we want to leverage some recent advances in language and vision models, though probably you are aware with some of them. Just to illustrate, what we called vision language models are models, as the name indicates, that deals both with images and text. So, for example, image captioning models falls into these categories. You give an image and okay, the system automatically generates a caption that describes the image. For now, this caption is really generic, but it works at some point. You have also some systems that perform image text matching task. In this case, we measure the semantic visual similarity between a sentence and an image. So in this example, for example, a true match would be to say that there is a man wearing a helmet, and a mismatch would be to say there is a man holding a helmet. And maybe you already see this. There are also systems that are able to modify an image based on a prompt. It's instruct pics to pics, for example, where you put an image as an input and a text like swap sunflower with roses, and the system will automatically change the image. So our idea is kind of take advantages on this method and kind of reverse the process in order to propose an image difference captioning system where you can input two images to the system, and it will create caption describing the modification. And this is a way to ensure that the system really learn a semantic feature, and also a way to understand the modification. So I have several, I don't go into details of our first results, but generally speaking, concerning the fake news detection, we have several challenges. The first one is generalization, because we need some huge amount of annotated data, and generally the system we developed are very specific to the data we see during the training, and so we need to have methods that are independent with respect to the method we target, and a method that is effective on real-world examples. We have to be robust to minor changes to low resolutions, for example, in case of deepfake detections, and we have to provide some explainability, so to find a way to explain why our system takes the decision about an image or a video being a fake or not. And I just stop here because time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. So thank you very much for a presentation which shows concretely how, in fact, it works and what can be done. It's, in this case, it's a little bit frightening, in fact, to see what are the possibilities today of the IEA. But I would also maybe going to turn now to Stefan Voss, head of the verification department of the German news agency, who is also familiar with Ukraine, where he worked for many years, but who also deals with the issues of digital research and deepfakes. So maybe could you tell, please, us how research for example, things we saw with Eva, is ultimately received and used by the major press agency today, and how is communication with the academic world is constructed concerning the work of these main agencies that you represent.
Laurent, thank you very much. Thanks for your introductory research work. What we have learned and heard this morning is, on the one hand, that we see this technical revolution. You might remember Photoshop. You might remember that for 30 years it has been fooling people in all societies. Now we have something new. Machine learning or AI on the one hand, and Robert Rode from the German embassy said it's almost indistinguishable now. That's what we all fear. It used to be seeing is believing or hearing is believing. What I see, this is not true anymore. But then Martin mentioned, yeah, there are technical options, and Eva as well, but so far the tools are not perfect to detect everything, and we're on the way. So what should we do as journalists? Should we wait for you guys? Yeah, maybe, but I can tell you something else. There is a perfect or an excellent tool to detect synthetic media and deepfakes. And it's not the smartphone. It might help you. Does any one of you have an idea what the tool is? It's your brain. Logical thinking. Logical thinking is, of course, everything is important. We have to develop this stuff. But until now, all relevant fakes we have seen so far can be detected by logical thinking and doing research. And Martin talked about a tool called inverse image research or reverse image search. I don't know if you have ever heard of that technique. It's very easy. This is part of media literacy, and you can debunk a huge part of all fakes so far with this technique. I won't go into detail, but it's just you compare it. It's a question with Zelensky holding up a shirt with a swastika on it, and you just use this tool, which is implemented into Google, for example, very easy. And that should be part of not only journalists' work, but every citizen's work. And if I talk about logical thinking, you might remember the photo of Zelensky holding up a shirt with a swastika. And if you looked at it, maybe you also thought, does a swastika look like that? That's really strange bend in a way. Yeah? So that's the first start of this logical thinking in a way. The answer to this was easily to be seen. It was easily, poorly manipulated. Was it number 55 or something on the shirt? Whatever, that was the main reason why it was curved and bent that way. So coming to your question, Laurent, is for fact-checking, claim-checking. Of course, we are following all the technical new things, but for us it is very important to not only fight disinformation, but also to fight fatalism. Fatalism in society, as I have mentioned it, I have no idea. We have no idea what is happening in Ukraine at the moment. Nobody can tell. That's wrong. We know a lot of things that are happening, which happen in public space, where people, eyewitnesses have taken photos of, videos of. We can see them, we can monitor, we can find them, we compare them, and we use the research techniques. Research techniques like geolocation, is this the place? Chronolocation, is this the time? What are the trees? Is there snow in the street? Stuff like that. All these different techniques, and the same is also with, we can, if those are news relevant events, we can contact those people, we can directly ask and compare. That's journalistic work, but it should be also work of society to debunk the stuff, and I'm coming to the end. So far, that's some good news. We have not seen real perfect fakes, I can tell you. They are not there yet. So this is, they might come in the future, or you might say maybe we haven't detected them. No, they are not there yet. What we are seeing are cheap fakes. You have shown them. Very cheap fakes. It seems to be enough to deceive half of the population. These cheap fakes are there, and a lot of people are fooled by it, yes, but you can easily debunk it by knowing how with some techniques. That's what we are doing.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for this introduction, which is very interesting because it shows that machines are important, but the center of it, the principal actors, remains the brain, or takes the human being, of course. So until now, if this problem has appeared indirectly, let's say on several occasions, we have discussed fake news exactly as a technological, let's say, issue aimed at controlling the veracity of facts, or fact-checking, as we say it in a more easier way. However, it is clear also, I think, that information is a question of interpretation. is here entering the brain, in fact, or narrative. So I'm going to ask now Professor Jacek Wasilewski from the Faculty of Journalism at University of Warsaw, expert for several public institutions and in the media field and specialist in discourse analysis, to come back to this topic, in fact. So could you please tell us or give, let's say, an overview of your work, but also explain what role language techniques play in these issues of manipulation and how we can efficiently deconstruct, if we turn back to the deconstructivism, which was popular in French, these oriented narratives, in fact, considering the information, the language.
I have also the presentation, so could you give me the cable? Which one is that?
Tutaj gdzieś chyba był... A, tu, ten, proszę.
Okay, I'm very glad that we have among us so many optimists as Stefan Voss, because I doubt in the abilities of a human brain, because we want to believe in anything that is consistent with our emotions. Okay, so even cheap fakes. Have no emotions. Yes, they hide them. Of course. So I want to tell you about a project. It was some kind of research before it, but I want to tell you about some kind of social intervention we prepared at the beginning of war, because we knew that we'll have many refugees, and in Poland came mostly at the beginning of war, mostly children and women. And of course, they really needed special care, and we just knew that they will be inevitably a burden on public services, I mean schools and hospitals and things like that. So we at the Warsaw University, it was the initiative of journalism department, tried to help local authorities and public service, just to try to help them how to identify, classify, and disable or just block the action of fake news, because we just thought that there will be many of them, because we had the experience of pandemic, and it was very strange because people from our government are on our blacklist, and we rarely cooperate with them, and we were on the blacklist of government, so it was hard to act together. So it was kind of anonymous cooperation. And we offered our government some kind of short manual for people from public services, just to recognize and react on fake news, because we thought that it could be kind of mental vaccination for those people. So we made kind of guide for them, just to make this mental vaccination, and we thought that refugees would be treated as a threat for Polish society, and we thought that there should be such topics like inequality, domination, chaos, fear, and some kind of focus on ordinance. Okay, some fake news just underline that they are different people and they are not like us. And of course, some fake news could focus on historical accounts. And for conservative wing of Polish society, it is very important topic, especially in east of Poland. So, so we identified at the first month of war many of fake news with such threats I showed us, and of course there were many phrases like "there is no room for me at doctor's office, hospital, or government office." Okay, so it was many of iterations of such phrases, but it was very similar. So we just collected all the phrases and things that were very common in structure, because we thought that structure of fake news and the sentiment will be the easiest to recognize for people from public services, and we prepared, of course, some possible answers for them, because when you are a director of hospital in a small town, maybe you have not enough time to even to check every day the fact-checking sites. So when they have manual, especially at the help desk or in the information services, in local authorities, in hospitals, in schools, also, it will be easy to to give the right answer for people that really believed in such fake news, for people that became a victim of that information war. So after that, we also gave them how to check the news if it's right or not, and of course we based on your work. And we prepared also a phone talk manual, because the people from local institutions had many phones from ordinary people about this Ukrainian threat. So we made scenarios of such talks, and propose some kind of answers for the information services. And it was the project. It was kind of substitution, because first at the first stage we tried to engage the public television in such activities, and it was impossible, because it was a conflict between the Prime Minister and the chief of Polish television. So we couldn't make such talks in TV series, because we thought that it would be the best way to vaccinate people, and it was kind of failure. So we decided to make such a manual, and we tried to support people to react properly on people that believed in fake news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this very interesting presentation, because it's also...
because it was short, yes.
Also, it was an important point, but I think the main point was the term you use of vaccination. So the fact of preventing fake news, but also the term that we can fight it before it arrives. So in fact, it's I think a topic we could discuss after our panel. So now I would like also to turn to the last of our speakers, the last but not the least, of course, whom I haven't forgotten, but I have helped him in order to put the aspects, let's say, that have just been mentioned into a different perspective. So we have with us Didier François, thank you very much, who is a consultant on defense issues for the LCI French information, let's say, channel. But for a long time, he was also a war reporter of great renown, covering various conflicts and even, unfortunately, spending 10 months as a hostage of the ISIS in Syria.
It was the best thing I did.
I suppose so. So I'm going to ask you to present maybe your position concerning the role of fake news in contemporary media. It's a general point, of course, but also to give us your thought, let's say, on the recent changes in the work of reporter or journalist of the field, as we say it in French, if we put it just a translation, considering the general framework or work of a profession that seems to be increasingly penetrated by a technological approach. So what does the field means today for journalistic work?
So yeah, basically, I'm at the beginning of the chain of information. We are the stupid ones. So because we can't really elaborate, we go and see. So basically, we are the one producing the information from the ground, and that's important. And we always have been confronted to propaganda. That's nothing new. What is new is the techniques which are used to produce them and the amount of it because of the internet and all the social media. So people which are receiving all this fake news are in front of a stream. And we are the opposite. We are not working on stream at all. If we need to debunk and work on streams, then we will turn to specialists who will develop the tools to try to differentiate from news and fake news. What we do basically is to go and see and find sources and work with people and listen to what they do. We and see by ourselves. So basically, we are witnesses in the whole process, and that's the role of the press. Press is to bring information. It's not communication. It's not stream. It's go and find the facts. Try to be as close as possible to the facts. Don't say truth because we don't know truth, but at least we are trying to do it in an honest process. When I say we've always been facing and confront to propaganda, I mean, it's nothing new, and it hasn't started with Ukraine or with Israel-Palestine today. I mean. Every public is subject to propaganda. It was the same during the Iraq War, and all this propaganda actually mind or put in the mind of the people a doubt on what is true and what isn't, because basically what are the propagandists doing? They are lying. But for the lie to actually be bought or to be accepted by the public, they usually use other lies and say, because the other one are lying, so why do you trust them? So, and basically, their aim is not to say the truth, it's just to destroy confidence in truth. And I cannot be to agree more than my colleague from Germany. They are going to use most of the time, your emotions. That's how it works. It's like every time you've got a strong emotion and you have to think about what's actually happened and you have to react. Stop, breathe, and think. That's the first thing we have to do. Just wait. Why is this image coming out? Why are those people telling me this? Is it coherent with the situation? You have to be aware of the environment you're working in and why some strange news, which actually is stronger than the others, is coming to you. So how was it found? How the people who are bringing you that news have been finding it? What we do as journalists, and that's the difference with social media, when we bring you a news, we explain to the people the process of finding the news, where we were, how did we get it, what were our sources. That's how we work. We don't just give you a news for you to believe. You are free not to believe the news we are bringing to you. What we have to do is to explain the process by which we brought you a news so you can make yourself your opinion. We don't ask you to believe what we say. We are trying to give you tools and arguments to make your own mind by yourselves. That's the difference between propaganda and communication, which is a form of propaganda, and information. And you always have to keep this in mind. When we come to Ukraine, we have to understand one very important thing. It hasn't started with the invasion of Ukraine on the 23rd of February. This battle, the news battle, the propaganda battle from Russia, has been starting years ago. And it started even when they occupied Crimea with the little green man and explained that it was people from Crimea who all of a sudden decided to raise themselves against the oppression of the Ukrainians. And we reporter, when we were on the ground, looking at those guys, all in the same uniforms, with weapons and, acting like military people, very obedient, very disciplined, with a leader. I mean, this is little things we saw, which actually showed us that there was nothing like an uprising of local people. And even the local people were speaking with different accents, were telling you, oh yeah, they are coming to protect us, they are the Russians. So basically, because we were on the ground, we could see it. So basically, why is this war has been, why did they use propaganda? The propaganda is used today, and you'll see it in all the campaigns they will do. Because we are in a war in which Russia tries to legitimate an invasion. To do that, they have to develop arguments against the Ukrainians. So we had the Nazi, we had the bombing of the local population, we have the corruption, and we have now also, it's because you're helping Ukraine that inflation is coming. So, and all of this is for one reason. Europe and the US are not directly fighting Russia. They are supporting Ukraine. Only Ukraine is in an actual war, except in two fields. Those two fields are cyber, what we can't see, and information. In the information field, why do they attack us? And why do they do that? It's because the support to Ukraine, the strategical depth of Ukraine is the West. All the weapons is coming, all the money is coming, help is coming from the West. If they do break the belief in the West that they should support Ukraine, then they want to obtain a military advantage by the fact that the West is not going to support Ukraine anymore, and so they can win. That's the only reason why they are making that much amount of effort into trying to use the fake news the way they do. That's the reason why every time we see a new campaign, we have to look at, is it true? Because sometimes they use truth, or is it not? And why is it? So this, I think it's very important to keep in mind the awareness of the reason why, and the environment in which we are working when we are producing news. And I think that everybody should ask himself, every citizen, as you say, should ask himself, in which environment do I receive information or fake news? That's so, yeah. Stop, breathe, and think.
Thank you very much. So considering the proceeding of our panel, maybe I would ask you, of all of you, so those who want to respond can please feel free. The question of one aspect we didn't mention yet, but which is central and banal, and let's say, is our information media experience, it's time. How do you manage time, in fact, today? Because one of the main aspects is that one news replaces another, and very, very quickly. So to fight against fake news, how do you see it from your perspective, scientist perspective, journalistic reporter perspective, and so on? Because do we have to concentrate on some main, let's say, topics and try to defend this front, let's say, or do we have to prevent with a big advance, as for example, Jacek said it, I mean prevention, so a vaccination against fake news. So how do you see this, or how do you see it also in the analysis from artificial intelligence? Do we have to also to develop our machines, or to develop programs that are more precisely acting for one or another aspect? So maybe how you can introduce this scientific and also philosophical term of time in your practice, let's say.
Sure. Okay. Should I try to do it in stereo? Yes.
If you want, it's also gain some time.
Yeah, so it's an excellent question. It's actually an unanswered question as far as I know, because nobody until now could tell me how much time you actually have to really stop a disinformation campaign from having impact. So you don't know if you need to stop it in 3 hours, 12 hours, 24 or 3 days or whatever. But, so I can only tell you my technical perspective here. So I think when we have a disinformation campaign, at least at first, technology cannot help to counter disinformation immediately because, as I said, error rates are too high. So if you had something like an integrated filter within something like a social media network that would block stuff when it thinks, okay, it's fake, then you had a really high chance that you have, for example, 10% of blocked messages. And of course, the problem then is also what is actually truth. Truth changes. How can you really react on truth? So when you have a terrorist attack and you say, okay, country X is a peaceful country, and then you have a terrorist attack, and by a snap of the finger, it's not a peaceful country anymore. But how can the machine decide whether this is true or not? So this is really a challenge. So what I think is that what you need to do is you need to support humans by reacting on disinformation campaigns, and this will take some time. This will take hours and maybe days. But what you can do afterwards is inform the machines, the filters, that this is actually a disinformation campaign, this is a fact. And when you then have reinsertions, or you have distributions over new networks, or you have small variations, then you can block this quite easily. So I think you have a certain delay, and then you have a filter effect afterwards. This is, so far as I can say, the only realistic strategy at the moment.
Thank you. Just very quickly, this is a great question because, as we know from our talks to fact checkers and everyone who tried to debunk misinformation, it just doesn't work very effectively, right? Because not a lot of people actually read debunks because it's not that engaging. It is pretty boring, and it is usually too late. So I think what Professor Wasilewski mentioned about the idea of vaccination, we call it, so our research arm, Jigsaw, made this research and put forward an idea to do pre-bunking campaigns, which we've done together with YouTube last year in Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. So you would present, basically the idea is you present short ads on YouTube before any videos about some techniques like scapegoating, for instance, right? Scapegoating on Ukrainian immigrants in the case of Poland. And the research showed it actually worked very well in Poland and Czech Republic. There were some slight issues with Slovakia, it didn't work that well, but Slovakia is basically, if you look at any research, it is a hotbed of misinformation, especially from Kremlin misinformation in Central and Eastern Europe. Now we're trying to repeat that experiment on a quite larger scale with DPA in Germany as well. So I don't think there are already any outcomes of that. Probably, yeah, okay. And one other thing, apart from pre-banking, is I think we can also try to find out which narratives might be trending in the future. So for instance, for many disinformation campaigns, again coming from China and from Kremlin, they first test most of those campaigns in developing countries in Africa or Caribbean. So for instance, Kenya is a testing ground for a lot of them, and the ones that work there are, we very often see them a few weeks or few months later coming out in Western countries or in Europe. So I think it is possible. We just have to align better. We have to pay attention. We have to tackle the issue globally. So I think Evgeny Fedchenko said about it's not only about tackling misinformation in Ukraine or Poland or what have you, but tackling the issue globally, seeing what narratives are circulating then globally and trying to stop them, if possible, at the core. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's maybe Didier and after Stefan.
No, go ahead. Time is a very important issue. I started, because you can see I'm quite old, so I started 40 years ago as a journalist and as a war correspondent. At the time, there was no computers and there was no sat phones, okay? We will go to Afghanistan, we will go for 3 months, nobody knew where we were. Then we have time to understand what's going on and speak with people. When we come back, it took us hours in Peshawar or in Chad to type our stuff, and we will explain what we've seen for at least a week, in double pages or in magazines, and people will take time also to read and understand the situation. So time and space are a luxury which actually produce news and information. It changed in the 90s with the sat phones and things and the feed the first Gulf War, where you could see on CNN the green lights behind the anchorman on the top of the roof, and you had the impression of seeing the war, but then you had no distance to understand what was actually going on. And the problem is that from that time, the reporter lost some autonomy because every day he was on the phone with his chief editor, which was organizing the news in a general kind of, putting it in a presentation. And now, and from information, we came to stream. And stream is not the same thing as information. And now this stream is even more and more, it has been industrialized in a way, and like all industry, it has been attacked by low cost, so it's getting down. And the economical model of the press now is more on the stream than information. Reporter like me, we are a very few amount actually, and we are used as a marketing marker for our news agencies or our media. And that's where you actually can, the propaganda can penetrate the mind of the people, because the stream is just an aggregation of things which are existing, but that the journalists haven't taken by themselves. Most of the young journalists who came out of schools have no chance to go on the ground and find the information by themselves. And that's an issue for our democracies, because you cannot fight disinformation, propaganda, just by technical means or just by official organization. It's very good that the foreign affairs or the army look into it, because there are parts of this action which are military action or are diplomatic action. But at the end of the day, our societies will be vaccinated against fake news only if there is a vivid an actual information that people can trust. And there's no way people can trust information if the process of making these informations is not clear for the people. That's very important. And time is part of that.
Yes, I thank you very much for the interesting point of view. It's very, very just, in fact, yes. So Stefan, maybe you can...
Thank you. Let me add one aspect of that, why time is so important. So how do you usually are getting those information and probably disinformation or so-called fake news via smartphone, I assume? Or maybe in the WhatsApp group you have with your family and the crazy uncle always sends stuff, and if you look at the account which is spreading that false information, I assume you have never seen that before. It's not the whatever Ministry of Foreign Affairs from whatever country you might imagine. So those are some accounts which are just publishing stuff, and how do they come into your WhatsApp group? Algorithms. Mainly algorithms of the platforms, which are pushing stuff. They see, oh, people are reacting on it. We have interference. So that is a huge problem. This makes everything faster and faster. This is maybe one reason why big platforms, which are now under pressure from the DSA and the Code of Practice, have to react, have to be transparent in that. What does it mean for journalists? We can partly react on this time pressure. Partly. We will never win this game. You can never be as fast and as whatever extremistic and as loud and screaming as those fake informations are. But we are a news agency. We are used to work very fast in a way. What we sometimes do is a format, what we call something like about a bigger topic where it's totally unclear. We write a format which is called What We Know Yet, and we do not know yet. So we are not waiting until the absolute end, but very transparently say, hey, we have debunked this element already, we have debunked that already, this is false. On this and this point, we still have to do some research on that. So but of course, every material we are publishing has to be double-proofed, and this takes time.
Thank you very much. Maybe someone else want to add? Yes, please, Eva.
Okay, I can just add another aspect from a technical point of view. So yes, time is a great challenge. And for example, as I mentioned, more than new fake, when we face a new method to create deepfakes, for example, this is very challenging because, as I mentioned, we may have, I take the example of deepfake. We have some algorithms that are able to detect them, and as I mentioned, they rely on artificial intelligence. That means they need a lot of data to train, to detect this kind of deepfake, and generally they are very specific to one method that produces a deepfake. And there exist a lot of methods that can create such deepfakes, and if a new method is used and published on social media, usually existing method will not be able to detect it, and will need a lot of time to identify the method, collect data, train the algorithm, and so on. So that's one point.
Thank you very much. And maybe continuing your reflection, do you think this? I'm a little bit pessimistic on this point, but do you think this some regulation, for example, could intervene? Because Stefan spoke about algorithm, for example. Do you think you could regulate it, or it's completely naive to put it in this way? What do you think? Yes, it's maybe Professor Wasilewski. Yes.
I think that we should allow people to believe in anything. Okay, so regulation is just, it's just like there is one truth, and you can have your own perspective. But when you talked about time, I think that we should have time dimension and intensity, because one fake news or gossip, because all over the time there were gossips and people have some kind of fake news, but it was spread in different ways. So we know in Byzantium and in Poland there were many ways to to inform people and to mislead people, but when the pattern is just like diffusion, Okay, it's about my uncle, my aunt, the boyfriend of my daughter. It is maybe stupid, but it's not dangerous. But when you have an attack and the intensity is very strong in one moment because some kind of narrative was chosen was chosen for such attack. So it's really dangerous, and we then have to act very quickly. So I think that the pattern of diffusion is normal, but the very strong intensity in one moment is very dangerous because we have no tools to react immediately. We have to have this double proof and all the procedures we used to check. So I'm afraid of very strict regulations because sometimes people really do reveal something. Okay, when there were regulations about flat Earth, okay, so Copernicus couldn't print his book. Anyway, he couldn't print his book. He made this in Germany. So thank you a lot about that. But we have to let people to be misled, I think. But we have to have tools for reacting for attacks.
Thank you very much. But in fact, when I was speaking about regulation, I wasn't meaning the regulation of information, of the content. I was speaking of some technical tools, for example, using algorithms and so on, because when we think about this situation, where we know is something that appears for us very natural, that, for example, there is a regulation for handle of weapons. It's something normal.
Yes,
Nowadays
I'm sorry, yes. I forgot about that. Usually it's done for entertainment. Okay, so there are many cases that we are misled by entertainment. People watch some kind of satire and they think it's kind of news. Okay, so sometimes we can't help them.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Martin.
Yeah, but So I've been talking with this about this problem of regulation and technology with a professor of law, and he gave me one interesting idea, and I like this very much. So the important thing with regulation is that as soon as you have, for example, a law or a rule that you must not distribute deepfakes without some information that this is entertainment stuff or fun or whatever, but you just spread it and there's no deepfake identifier there. Then, when this is not allowed and you have a good means of identifying deepfakes, you can simply react on breaking this regulation that you must not spread deepfakes without showing that this is a deepfake. So you don't need to go into debunking and analyzing and questioning, okay, would it be censorship if I remove this or whatever? It's just, okay, you have the regulation, it's not allowed to spread deepfakes without an info, so you detect it as a deepfake, and you can act on the content. And this is quite helpful because it takes away the need for a higher interpretation. You really can go into a technical analysis. Of course, it's still a challenge because you need a reliable way to detect this. But if you have this, it's quite helpful to have such a regulation.
Thank you very much. Didier, yes.
I don't know much about technical things about algorithm, but it's true that it's a problem in our societies. We all have bias. I do have. I mean, everybody has. and what algorithms are working on is that they feed our bias and they amplify them, and that's very dangerous. Even I think for ourselves. Every day I'm trying to you have to fight by yourself about your own bias. And that's what's difficult. Because we assume we are trying to organize news for reasonable, nice, normal people. But there's nothing you can do about people who want to believe and you can tell them everything you want and give them the proofs. They will never trust you and believe you because they are stuck in their beliefs. And people who don't understand that, there's nothing you can do. You can put all the subtitles you want. It won't never work. So that's an issue. But but that's an issue for ourselves. And it's more and more difficult to have different point of views. And we have to force ourselves to listen to the others and to try to find out why are they doing something, even if you don't agree with them. What are their motivations? Like, typically, I'm totally against the occupation of Ukraine. I think it's terrible. I try to understand what is the logical of the Russian behind it, because if I don't understand that, or again, same Hamas, I'm not going to say, but why did they change their strategy? Why did they did what they did? And when did they took hostages? What's the strategy behind? It's not to try to excuse; it's to try to understand, and the only way you can do that is to also look the way they are making their decisions, because all those decisions are taken by men. I mean, they make the wrong decision, but they are taking those decisions. So we have to find, and that's our work as journalists, to explain how it came to that decision, to that point where you have to report on it. And it's an effort you have to do on yourself every day.
Thank you very much. So once again, we come back to reflection. In fact, Stefan, maybe you wanted to add something.
Very shortly on that regulation, I would like to answer one thing on that. Should it be allowed that people are spreading false information, lies? Just maybe you can ask yourself, is that okay? Yes, of course it's okay. That's freedom of speech. You are allowed to do that. If you want to write the earth is flat, and here is a study on that the earth is flat, absolute, that's fine. We are in Europe, we can do that. No, honestly, this is very important. Yeah, what is important in this whole discussion, again, about regulation, we have to regulate the platforms, again, who are then, again, pushing false information. We talked about this a minute ago, but we should not regulate people. So the answer to that is also, I'm a fact checker. That means what we need is also on platforms, here's the false information, and here is a fact check or something like that. Here is somebody with a proven history or an expert or certified expert who explains how it is and gives the proof to that. We have that partly with platforms. Some do already, others do not do it. Now we have the DSA and the Code of Practice. Things might change now, but it's very important to understand that we're not talking about whatever it's forbidden to do this or something like that. That is the core point in here. We need the discussion, we need arguments, counter-speech is the word, for an open society to, in the end, fight disinformation.
Thank you very much. So maybe coming back to the question of time, the central question, which was in our discussion, I propose that we go to the coffee break, maybe to continue this discussion in other format. But before it, I will just say a few words about the organization of the day. So after the coffee break, I propose you to come back in this room at 11:30, so after 50 minutes, and we will split in 3 groups. For different workshop, animated by 2 specialists as we planned it originally. I mean, one from the academic world and one from the practical world, a journalist. So we will tell you this, what are these groups after the coffee break, but we gather here so in 50 minutes, and we will after continue in 3 different rooms on this floor and also on the first floor. Under us here. So good coffee break, and see you here in 50 minutes. The coffee just here. It's just on this point. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, thank once again for the discussion and for our speakers.
Hello, hello everybody. Good that you're still here. We are going to change a little bit the rules of the game. I'm going to explain the rules. So please, the first thing you have to do is to move forward, because now we are going to do such a thing like a fishbowl discussion. Well, normally it's for a bigger audience than we are, but to give you the opportunity to interact with speakers, it's the best possibility to get into interaction. So first thing, please, all of you, move here. A lot of chairs free.
More forward, okay?
More forward, please. You too, please. Yes, everybody. Yeah, it was yours also. You're sitting. So. Move on. Well, here's 3. Please. Come over. It's free. Please, come over. Come closer, because if not, it's not going to work. So what we are going to do, we are trying a more interactive presentation of the results of the workshop. So this means I'm going to invite as a moderator the speaker, the presentators of the working groups, and there will be, you see there are 4 seats. 1 seat will be occupied by me, 2 seats occupied by the moderators of the working group presenting their results. And then I expect you, if you want to interact, if you want to share some views of your working group, just come to us, join the group, and there will be 1 seat free, and interact with the people who are already presenting. When you are finished, whoever is finished, well, just leave his chair free or her chair free, and then there's possibility for another one to come. Is this more or less understood? Any questions? No. So please, the speaker, the presenter of the first working group, I would like you to come. I think you are the first on the list. Stefan and Jacek, please. Yes, together. So, you're being my guinea pigs now. That's a great. So, you had the discussion about the possibilities, capabilities of artificial intelligence. What was the discussion all about? What are the major findings of the group? Where are the problems?
Okay, I'll start with it. Jacek, you jump in, you will contradict me. That's what we agreed on. Where we didn't agree, that's good. Yeah, we talked about the opportunities of AI so far concerning disinformation, means to create and also to debunk. We first just asked ourselves, so how present is our AI-generated fakes in our real life? And I guess most of participants were asking themselves, how do I know? Do I really see them? So it was more or less, it is not really there. I would say every day in my WhatsApp group, I get these deep fakes, I can see them. So on the one hand, we have a reporting on AI is there and AI can do everything and can deceive you. On the other hand, it's not present real, but we are quite aware that if it's not there yet, it will come. That's on the one hand. We discussed a lot about the opportunities of AI. We were a little bit coming from different positions. On the one hand, Jacek and others also mentioned how capable AI is already, what you can do in general with AI to deceive, to fool people. My position is still, from a journalistic point of view, that it is still impossible to create news-relevant, once again, news-relevant fakes for the time being, for the moment, because you can still put it in the context, you can verify it, you can check it, so that's where we are, but we were not talking about the future on that. So far on how AI is there at the moment, so it's definitely not the catastrophe which is built on, but we are expecting a lot. Would you like to contribute?
Yes, of course, because we find out that I'm pessimistic one, and Stefan is a bright star in our group. and Stefan was convinced that it's quite easy to distinguish between true news and a fake one, because there is a lack of consistency and not everything is perfect. So the brain of journalists could analyze it and distinguish, and it's okay. And the pessimistic part of our group was not so convinced, and I said that it's not so obvious, and some of participants in our group, for example, Paweł Kuchma, tried to make conscious, tried to make Stefan believe that we are unconscious of the flood of fake news. And it's not so easy. And if we don't know what is fake information and what's not, we can't say that we are able to do it. And there are many information that we receive from entertainment and others genres, not only news, and it makes our attitude towards some things in special way, and that tendency is very important in reacting to fake news. And because of that, we could omit some signs of inconsistency, and because of that, we could be eager to be misled or eager to be misinformed, and of course for our sake, another man of ideal world didn't agree. And it made me happy because having such people around us in our group, I could feel safe, and we made also one distinction, that we can act in the citizen mode when we are responsible for others, responsible for society, looking for regulations, looking for solutions to be rational, and we are also in the consumer mode when we try to feed our self-esteem. And some of our stars in our group assured us that we could be all the time in the citizen mode, and I'm very happy that I've heard that.
Okay. In the end is the question, who's going to be responsible? Do we need any responsibility regarding AI? Is there any question from the audience who would like to, or would you like to add something from your working group? Because we have that, please, Mr. Steiner. Okay. Yeah, well now, yeah.
I need to go to the front. So, yes. I come back to this concept of time, because maybe time is an interesting question here, because you said AI doesn't allow fakes that are news relevant, but I think with the concept of news relevance, it could mean that you can verify, you could, for example, have a close look, have a second opinion, call people, and so on. But this, of course, means that there's a huge delay. So when you, for example, just an example, you have a war zone and you say, okay, there are pictures of soldiers shooting civilians. And then you have emotions. And of course, in a war, I guess it's hard to call somebody that you really can trust, that it gives you the correct information and so on. So things can become really complex. But with AI, you can create perfectly reasonable pictures of a scene where soldiers shooting civilians, and they will look really good. And so the question is, are we talking about the same thing? So immediate response versus, okay, do I print it in next tomorrow's newspaper?
I fully agree with you. the question of time, of course. But if you have a scenario like that, it is still the question, there's somebody who is just creating fakes, for example. But how can that person deliver it to public, to society? It could be, okay, you might say it is already a very big account, social media account, but then it has a background or is maybe even notorious, so we know them or we mistrust them. Otherwise, again, if somebody creates it, we need the algorithms in it to make harm. If you are creating fakes and nobody sees them because you have only 2 followers on Twitter, you can do that, and you know what I mean? But there's no result, there's no harm in that, really. So this is the point I see for that, for the moment where we should also act. I agree with you. If there are out these things and millions of times being shared already, then time plays a big role and it makes harm. But once again, still the creator has to achieve it that millions of people can see it, and therefore you need the algorithms of the platforms, and there we should start with regulation as well. If I'm answering your question or your point.
Don't you have an DPA, the army of bots?
If we are fearing are we fearing the army of?
No, don't you have?
If we have an army of bots, no.
Maybe you should.
I don't know why.
Okay, because usually when you plan an attack for some institution or just you want to attack media with some topic, you have thousands of fake accounts, and you can make it in 1 hour with 1,000 connections. Okay, and usually it is just like an outbreak. Okay, so this is not the question how to spread the information. Okay, it's the question is how to foresee it.
I got your point. It means like this is really like fake industry. We talked about this. You mean where you have already thousands of accounts and a bot army behind you. I agree with you. That's another point. Thanks for clarifying this. But have we seen that already?
Yes.
Just yeah.
At the beginning of war, Ukraine with Russia, the army of bots that was used in pandemics switched to be the Russian bots, and they were trying to blame Ukrainians for the war outbreak. Okay, so I think that it is, and it this army is in the sleep mode, and suddenly it is used, and even if you recognize many accounts, new ones started to be ready for the next strike, and especially nowadays when Elon Musk proceed with freedom of speech on Twitter, X platform. I think it will be worse. Okay, the condition will be even worse than before.
Thank you very much. Are there comments from other members of other groups? So you could have my chair. Do you want to? No. No, please. Oh, no, it's okay. So
Martin was sitting here, everybody can sit.
So please, well, who else are the presentators of the working groups? Are there some of you going to present a working group? So please come. Take the seat. Okay. No. You're just say what's
okay. Do you want to remember here?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So in our group, we actually discussed a few questions, right? And among them, we started by asking ourselves how much efforts we are willing to put in to inform ourselves. So we can agree on 2 things. Information costs money, but informing yourself on social media doesn't, right? So What I mean by information costs money is that to actually get the information from its source, you have to be willing to invest money in field reporters for them to actually go on the field and look for the information by asking people questions and actually being there and seeing for themselves, right, what's going on. And so later, this information is communicated by sources that are much more reliable than social media, right? Because from where we got the information from, reporters. So I'll give you the...
And so nowadays, people tend to inform themselves on social media, but there is a real problem with that, which are the algorithms, because they close you in sort of a bubble, and you won't be able to see other ideas and visions of life. And people tend to stay in sort of a laziness because they are not going to try to go out of this bubble. They're just going to continue to scroll and stay in the same ideas. But there are some solutions to fight this, because you have to force yourself to look for different opinions. Even if it's the opposite of what you're thinking, it can annoy you. But it's important to make this effort and to try to look for other opinions so that you don't stay in this bubble, because no matter what is your opinion, it's not a good thing to always be confronted to the same ideas. So, yeah, by looking at different opinions, you'll contribute to break this bubble. One more thing. There's another really important thing when you're informing yourself. It's to look at the sources, because you don't always know where the information is coming from. The news just pop up on your feed. You look at them, you read them, you remember them, but you don't make the effort to try and check where they are coming from. There's no real traceability of the information.
So at the end of the day, we can say that while we live in a world where most of our sources of information, right, they are from social media, right? So we go on our phones and we just log in, right, on Instagram, Facebook, like whatever your preferences are, and we just take our information from there. And so we can see that the reliability of the info we're getting is a pretty challenging topic. And so we can deal with this issue in, two ways that we can think of right now. Is first of all, like as Maya said before, imagine this bubble. And when you're in this bubble, it means that the algorithm is giving you information that will actually suit your preferences, right? Whatever your preferences are, whatever the topic is. And so you can start by breaking this bubble by going and looking for other sources of information that won't align with your way of thinking. So you can just get another opinion. So that's the first thing you can do. And the second thing you can do is actually treat information as if it was your food. Try to know where it's actually coming from, what you're feeding your brain with. And you can also ask yourself the question, for what reason the information that you're reading has been diffused, by who, and what were his intentions?
Yeah, and about that, for instance, you can think about the chicken you ate for lunch. It was in your plate for some reasons. You know that it complies with the European regulations, and there is a traceability, not like the information that you see on social medias.
Yes.
You prefer the chick? Yeah. Is somebody going to comment on that? Wanted to take on? Please.
Yeah.
Some of you have maybe.
Yes, so because the girls have talked about this effect of social media bubble, let's say, and the fact that the young people, your generation, is so much affected by disinformation in social media. What do maybe researchers and journalists think that the governments and the state institutions should do about that? Because the girls already talked about solutions, what young people should should do in order to cope with this challenge of disinformation and fake news on social media. But still, a lot of fake news and disinformation is available, and not every young person is fact-checking and, you know, checking the source, the dates, the provenance of each information that they see. So what can governments and institutions, maybe more regulation of these platforms of social media, or what kind of solutions do you think, or maybe more media literacy in schools from very early age for people to be informed about these challenges and these risks from the very early age in order to, let's say, look more critically at the information that they see on social media.
If I may, thank you very much for your wrap-up. We got a lot of things and understood what you have done in your group. Your question and the comments you made on what should be done in regulation, this is my private position on that. I can't speak on behalf of my news agency. Is definitely, I would wish that we put some light into the black box of how your mobile phones or your TikTok and other tools, platforms are working. Why do you get the particular things? Why suddenly is there more pro-Russian content? Or why is that especially? And we know by research that, for example, the TikTok users that in my generation over 50, that I get totally different content, which might not seem surprising than people under 20, for example. This is okay if it is just really whatever, cat video versus football video or something like that, it would be. But if we come into political disinformation as well, there seems to be something behind it. So my hope is, and I'm, again, as you said, optimistic on that, I'll see in the DSA, in this regulatory process in the EU, also the hope that the platforms must be transparent, that they allow researchers to look into their algorithms, how it works, to give answers to that. And that will be not very convenient for the platforms, I assume. That's how they make money. But this is definitely a need for it, because once again, otherwise it's totally unfair. And one small thing on that, definitely you say, for the youth, again, maybe even younger people might nevertheless be more aware of the opportunities to fake. So that it is maybe more difficult to fool them by technical things, again by Photoshop or so. I would say it's a higher level of awareness at least. This is rather a fake or something, I would assume, than older people, again, who can be still fooled by Photoshop in the concern. What I wanted to say is definitely media literacy is necessary, but once again for all generations, that is important.
So one thing more about, because I want to be in contrary to Stefan. This is my role that he asked me to do it. One thing about the media literacy, because every post on Instagram is fake news, okay? Because it's unreal. Of course, the real posts are very bad, and no one wants to see such photos. So when we talk about social media, it's about self-presentation. It's not about information. So when I have when I have my wall, it's my wall for self-presentation. And when I read some site of media, it's about information. And having something that is not so pleasant on my wall, it's unpleasant for me. It's not self. I feel badly with that. Okay, and having something maybe not so pleasant on DPA sites, it's okay for me. Okay, so social media walls, it's not space for informing. It's about sharing information, but sharing as self-presentation, as we, make some signs about ourselves. Okay, so it's very hard it's very hard to make something better or improving social media because it's not the medium for information. It is used to inform people, but the main function is really opposite to informing.
Are there other questions and comments and commentaries, information you would like to share? Please.
Thank. So why I don't care. I just don't know the rule because Olga was allowed to stay in her seat, but I have to. Okay. So, okay.
You should be visible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because you're on the camera.
Yes. Yeah, so Olga could also have been on the camera. I think that's not an argument. So, so the question that I'm wondered about was when we have a regulation, for example. So, how could this regulation look like? So, as you asked the question, or maybe I give the question back to you if you have something in mind, because when you, for example, I think in YouTube and other channels, we had the thing that, first of all, there was this influencer advertisements, and they didn't tell you anything about it. And then they were forced to show that there is advertisement. But did this really change the way things are perceived? So is it like, oh, that's advertisement, so I don't trust him anymore. I'm not influenced by him because there is a sign. So when we force people, for example, in YouTube to put a message as, so this is not actual news content, but a personal opinion of a content creator, would this really change things, or do we really need to go to the level of controlling which content is distributed? And when this is the way to go, then I guess it becomes really hard on deciding what to distribute. So it's really not, I don't want to be nasty, but yes, freedom and speech. So this is when we are at the point of when we really regulate the content. But when we go a little bit more early and say we just somehow distinguish between information and entertainment, then my question would be, even if we force people to make a difference by having a logo, this is just entertainment or this is just opinion, but not news content, would it really change the way it interacts with the viewers? Would viewers then really have this gap in mind to say, oh, so now he's just talking as an entertainer and not as a news spokesperson? Or would the information not leak into the brains of the people nonetheless? I have no idea, so I'm not a psychologist, but I...
Didier, please.
From your interventions comes to one idea, because you said like how we would regulate it. And one idea is behind this, that it's all an algorithm. This one is secret. That was also the topic of the previous speakers. And the secret is how they make money behind. So we understand that the social media platforms do make money by selling targeted ads. They need it. They won't disclose the algorithm, most probably. So how about limiting the use of algorithm to paid ads, for example? Like, as of today, Facebook, for example, just to name one example, makes sure that the contents we have in the newsfeed is filtered by our preferences. So if some of you have 1,000 contacts on Facebook, you would see contents that are published by 20, 30 relatives, and the others, you will just not see them. And those algorithms that they use for private use, or private, not so private, depends what use people make of it, do we need to apply them the same rules as the business use of Facebook, which is also to send ads? The ads can still be personalized if without that they would not make money. But would there be a way to just control the fact that to limit the use of algorithm for individuals' use?
So I have a microphone, so I just can react. That's totally fine, but
yeah. Oh, pardon. Sorry.
Actually, I have
That's
no idea how this.
It's interesting because we have all the people from our workshop have been discussing all of this, and so that's interesting because we had that discussion. One of the issues is there is also a lack of confidence in official corpus, organizations, states, even media, mainstream media. And I'm part of the mainstream media. Some people will think that because I'm part of the mainstream media, I'm part of a plot. And even so, we had this problem to make a difference between, first, what is a normal debate? You might have stupid idea, but you're allowed to have them. And basically, who is going to decide your idea is stupid or not? So basically, if they don't break the rule, I mean, you have all the right in the world to express yourself. That's freedom of speech. And that's one of the difficulties in trying to regulate this kind of debate. So that's why we went on the discussions about how actually we can operate in an environment where we are the users of the algorithm and social media, because it is very difficult to regulate as such, because the line is going to be very thin in between what is censorship and what is enforcing the law. And there's so many laws that nobody can actually enforce. So we can make some new ones, but you never know who's going to use them and for what. So that's an issue. And the second thing is that those people who actually don't trust you are going to use those laws to explain that they are right, because taking laws against them is a proof that basically they are the right people and you're part of the plot. So is it efficient? We don't think so. We didn't add an answer as such. I mean, everybody, I suppose, has his own answer to that question. And that's what makes it difficult. We are in a situation where we actually don't master the tools that we are using every day as if they were neutral, though they are not. And that's one of the difficulties I think we had. And we also had the discussion about how a new generation might use it differently from an older generation, and will find their own solutions to this problem. But I'm not sure that taking lawful decisions, either for when it breaks the law, which is totally different, but to try to organize an arena of discussion which is going to be like a normal, academic, scientific, reasonable, is going to work against what we see on the social media, which is a kind of flow of emotions. So we actually do have to master that tool, and that's a long-term process. I don't think there's any, that's my personal position, I don't think there's any easy answer. And any easy answer is going to be dangerous, because we don't know who's going to use it.
Maybe I can try to answer your question or comment on your comment. So what you propose is that social media doesn't filter news or target news anymore. So you use your social media account and then you get arbitrary news. And I wonder if people actually would use a news system like that, or if the next steps then wouldn't be to have something like a user configurable filter that the user then is not assigned news anymore automatically by analyzing how it, but maybe I just say, okay, I don't care about soccer, so no soccer. I want information about this kind of music, but please no mainstream rock, and so on. And then I think within a few days, people would build their own bubble again. So I could at least imagine. I don't know if it would be like that, but so from my experience, when I look at news channels, I never open a news channels and just say, okay, tell me what happens. Usually I ask, okay, I heard about this occurrence or that problem, and then I look at news about this. And this is filtering. So of course I can miss things. So this type of broadcast generic news feed, this is something that I only experience when I really watch TV news. So when in the morning, I usually watch some sort of news program, and then I get a collection of news that somebody thinks is important to know, and that's good for me. So I have a rough idea what's going on in the world in the morning, good feeling, but as soon as I really use the computer, so then I filter, and don't know if we just change the social media-driven filter with personal filters. And I have no idea if it's better or worse.
And just to quickly, that's why we ended into discussing about the question of traceability. As Maria and Juliette said, basically, if you eat something, you'd like to know where it comes from. And when you feed your brain, it should be the same. You should know where it comes from. And then you're about to know, and you make choices based on a kind of a, so maybe more than a rule, it's just the being able to find where information is coming from or where it's leading to. Maybe a solution in between, censorship and free debate.
Censorship and free debate. Free debate. Who wants to participate? Some comment from your working groups.
The third working group didn't we have three?
No, we have three. We are already all working groups now at the. You have.
No, we were one. So this. Yes, no, we were one working group.
It's already so. Yes, the whole group. There is one more. So we can finish the. You're looking at me like.
One group. There is one more group.
Yeah. So okay. We were group 2. This is all group 2. So we.
Okay, so I can force the other people. So I would like. I had thought that maybe with the discussion, well, I don't have to call all the working groups on stage. But now I will please ask the last but not least working group on stage. It's Daniel and Eva. So please come over. Take the phone. Sorry.
Thank you. Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, if you want, sure.
Okay, so many things have already been said during this discussion. To summarize what happens during our session, so the topic was how we can detect fake news. And so we spent many times to show several examples and discuss which kind of artifact we can find in images or in data for now. So we agree that for now there are still many inconsistencies that are detectable in actual current fake news. And we also discussed several existing tools, like the InVid one. I think much of people know it, so how it works, yes. Very great tool. Okay. There are mostly two other points that were discussed, and one, has already been mentioned, is about the problem, and the fact that we cannot estimate by definition how much fake news we are not able to debunk, either manually or automatically. And so, in fact, we don't know where we stand and what is the amount of fake news we are not aware of. And another question interesting is how can we ensure that content is authentic? And because we are talking a lot about how we can detect something that has been modified, but how can we ensure that something is really authentic? And because there is a counter effect right now, is that some politicians claim that real videos from them are indeed fake ones, and it's a way for them to not assume easily to not assume what they have said before. For this problem, we mentioned some promising directions that can be active solutions, like watermarking, where you can inject some invisible or not, but some information in the image or in the video to ensure the authenticness. And of course, this kind of watermark should be robust to many manipulation. But so this is promising direction, but it can only apply to some content and will not resolve all the problems. And that's all I remember.
Yeah, I think I also established, but a lot of some participants didn't agree that what Stefan said at the very beginning in our workshop, that we didn't find any examples of deep fakes that were actually very impactful and people would fall for it. So I still think that cheap fakes are the big issue, and we don't need any sophisticated technology like that to fool people and to influence our policy making, decision making, etc. So it's more about still education and critical thinking, and this kind of work at the ground to consume content, I hate this word, news, and yeah, content with much more criticism and a little bit less trust, unfortunately, because there's not enough trust in the society. Happy for any participants to take the floor as well.
Nobody needs to move until now. So I'm just wondering, well, I cannot not comment on this idea of watermarking, because I'm doing watermarking since 25 years now. And the unsolved problem with watermarking until now is security. Robustness works perfectly fine. You can do really well watermarks that stay into content. But so far, things like, for example, copy attacks, so taking a watermark and moving to a different content, and then having the watermark on that content. This is very possible. It's really hard to counter such attacks. And this, of course, means that when you have an environment where you say, okay, you can trust things because there's a watermark in here, you just copy the watermark and put it on your disinformation, and then you have a even more evil way to spread disinformation, because you have a certified disinformation campaign. And it's also the other way around, so removing watermarks, especially when you have a lot of content with one watermarking and verification scheme. It's very easy because you learn the pattern of the watermark. So it's a signal. Basically, a watermark is a signal, and you have arbitrary content with the same signal. You just put all the signal, all the content, stack it, and you have a very strong signal, and then you know how to remove it by inversion. And so it's really, you need to be aware of this, that watermarking is perfect for some applications, but I'm not really sure if it's perfect for this application. So it's really a technical challenge, so far as I know, unsolved.
Okay, and there are no other active methods that can guarantee that the content is attached to the data, or
yeah, but when you attach things to data, you usually can also remove it. So this is quite easy to do. So the best strategy I know right now is still to have sort of robust hashing, like you use it for inverse image, and then you take the content, create a robust hash, put a digital signature on the robust hash, and give the meta information and put it somewhere. And then when some content occurs, then you can take the robust hash and look if the same content is already in the signed list, and you can derive the meta information. But also robust hashing can be attacked. So it's not like it's perfect, but it's harder to attack, I would say, than this watermarking strategies. And what you can do with, for example, robust hashing is then you can store the original. So as soon as somebody claims that the content is like it is, and you use the robust hash, you can show how the original looked like, and then it's easy to debunk anything that has been successfully injected by changing content. But this requires infrastructures. But it's really, so far, the only strategy that I can think of that can somehow help to deal with this content manipulations.
Thank you very much. Somebody else who wants to take my place here? To ask a question, to do a comment. Last opportunity, last call for comments. No comments? 1, 2, 3, no comments. Okay. So the closing of this workshop is going, well, of this seminar is not going to be done by me, but I would like to close this workshop session. I think it was extremely interesting. Well, we started with your presentations in the morning, and now we got something new. We'll work together with you as participants. Well, there are 3 basically points. Well, we have been talking a lot about technological development, and nobody knows where it is going to lead us. And easy tricks are not available so far. I learned as well, just for watermarks. Well, this is not going to be the magic trick to get us out of fake news. Then the next issue was responsibility. Well, this was also a topic that we discussed very much. Well, do we need a regulation or not? Well, this discussion is ongoing, I think, also not only in the workshops, but after the seminar also. And the basic question, are we more citizens or more consumers? Are we rational beings or more emotional? This is at least the 3 issues I'm going to take out from this session. Thank you very much for being here, for sharing your opinion and your findings with us. And I hand over the phone, well, the microphone, not the phone, for closing remarks to Laurent. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Florian. I thank you all. I don't know if I will summarize, let's say, this day of dedicated to fake news, because we told many things. I think we had many answers, but we had even more new questions, I think, which was, of course, predictable, and which is a good thing, I think, in academic world, but also in general for our reflections. I, of course, found this very interesting, and I hope all of the public also considers in this way, having maybe some new inspiration for the reflections. To put things maybe more generally, I would say that I reflected about this day, considering that finally we talked, of course, about technologies, we talked about responsibility, rationalism, maybe some magical side, because we told it in many workshops also that many of us also want something extraordinary. So it hasn't to be real, it has to be extraordinary first of all. It maybe this is one of the main issue here, that we don't only think in a rational way, and as Florian put it, it's one of the important things here, I think. So I would maybe say that the interesting thing is finally that the individual aspects is in the center of strategies against fake news. And finally, it's not only our brain, but also our position in the society, as you put it at the end, as a citizen, but also as a consumer, as a human being. We're considering it from our point of view, and not only general things of society, community, and so on. Because community is something important, but it's also a way to anonymizing responsibilities, and when responsibility is anonymized, it doesn't work so well. In fact, I think so. Maybe we have to reconsider this individualism, which is always underlined today, saying that social media are also a kind of castle of individualism, because in a way they present each one of us as a kind of self-glorifying statue, because publishing posts, publishing videos, photos, and so on is a kind of self-glorification, I would say also. But maybe, of course, we can't fight against it, because we have technology here, we have social practices which are already very deep established. But we could maybe, also for our young listeners, students, and also from the people from the French Lyceum of Warsaw, say that I will put it, let's say, this way, and maybe we have to reconsider this individualism not from this self-glorifying point of view, but from a point of view of human beings who are aware of and responsible for their own power, because finally we decide what to do with fake news. We can be guided by algorithms, we can be guided by maybe social practices, we can be guided by our laziness, let's say. But in fact, Florian put it in this way, that we are lazy to be, we are too lazy to, in fact, verify information and so on. But finally, laziness is a kind of rationalism. It's a rationality to be lazy, because we simply think in a way of what amount of effort do we dispense to obtain one or other goal. So in fact, it's being rational than being lazy. But in fact, if we replace this perspective from individual and in terms of responsibility, I think this would be maybe the way to fighting against fake news. Because coming back to the question of time, when time is the main aspect, and we are always late behind fake news, which are preceding, let's say, all our efforts to fighting them. Maybe considering it from the field where this fight is going on, I mean, our head would be the main strategy to fight them. So we have, for that, of course, some methodological tools. Also, as a historian, I would say that one of the maybe first and basic question would be to ask why and for whom an information, an image was published. Because why? We don't have to lose that question of why, not only what, but also why. And I will finish maybe here. Finishing on a why, maybe it's not a very inspiring solution, but it's maybe an inspiring way to continue these reflections between us and at least in our individual heads. So once again, I thank all of you to be here with us. I thank you for this wonderful, I think, discussion and inspiring reflection. And I hope that it will also be for us a kind of platform to reconsider our position in front of fake news, but also in front of all our position in the society and our civic responsibility, let's say, in this way. So thank you very much, and we were very glad to have you with us, and have a good day for the other part of this reflection. Thank you very much.